My next guest podcast, A Slight Change of Plans, was named the best show of 2021 by Apple, and it's been downloaded over 8 million times. That's a lot of downloads. Okay, so it's grown in popularity due to her ability to bring out the best in her guests by combining her own research and compassion. It doesn't hurt that the creator of the podcast, Dr. Maya Shankar, is a cognitive scientist. And with her background, she now explores the science of big life changes, both internally and externally, that we all experience.
Wouldn't it be so great if the last 3 lines of your CV were all the things that you tried and sucked at or failed at, right? So it's like, here's the highlights reel. But Maya never became the Bollywood dancer that she wanted to become when she was in high school. She never became the singer-songwriter that she wanted to become when she was in college, right? Because she had no aptitude for singing. And so it would be really wonderful to hear a slightly more unfiltered story from people about the broad range of things they've tried in their life and then have not succeeded at.
Yeah. Please welcome Dr. Maya Shankar to the show. That is fascinating. All right. So I'm sitting here and I watch the audience. Everyone has that list of things that they tried. Mine, I used to want to be a blackjack dealer, except for I don't know how to play cards. My parents played spades growing up, and I would always see them. I am terrible with numbers and terrible with cards. So that is on my list. That's
I love
one
it.
of my lists.
I love it. Add it.
You've spoken with everyone from Casey Musgraves, the musician, Hillary Clinton, Riz Ahmed, people in the White House, to the United Nations. And we all probably are thinking, what do we have in common with these people? But you say we all have something in common when it comes to these life-changing moments.
Absolutely, yeah. There's such a universality in the way that we approach change and navigate change. And in many ways, the show, A Slight Change of Plans, is rooted in my own personal story of change. So I had a formative experience when I was a young kid. When I was 6 years old, my mom went up to her attic and brought down my grandmother's violin that she had brought with her from India. And I immediately fell in love with the violin.
Oh, look at you.
It became a centerpiece of my childhood very quickly. And when I was 9 years old, my mom and I would take trips from Connecticut to New York so I could study at Juilliard.
Wow.
And then when I was a teenager, Itzhak Perlman asked me to be his private violin student.
So it looked like you were on the road to your destiny.
I was hoping. That was the vote of confidence I needed, Tamron,
right,
to try to see if I could go pro. And then just as I was on the up and up, I had a sudden hand injury that ended my career overnight.
Yeah.
And I was told by doctors that I could never play the violin again. And I just remember in that moment, Tamron, and I wonder if you can relate to this, at these big moments of change in life, that I expected to grieve the loss of the violin, but I did not expect to grieve the loss of myself.
And you were a kid, a young, you were young.
Yeah, I was 15 years old.
And you actually wrote that this was a brutal first lesson in understanding change and processing it.
Absolutely. And what I learned from that experience is it's so natural for us as humans to tether ourselves to certain identities.
Yeah.
It's our way of finding meaning and purpose in this world, right? So there's a huge upside to that. The downside is when you lose the ability to do the very thing you love, and then it can be very destabilizing.
You know, we spoke earlier with actress Niecy Nash-Betts and Jessica Betts, who she refers to as her husband.
Yeah.
They were close friends in a platonic relationship, and Niecy talks about the fear behind why she delayed their relationship, which is she was worried she was going to lose a friend. Mm-hmm. And so that kept her in a box. And then when she set herself free from this identity trap to future tripping, as people say, and fears, she got the love of her life.
Yeah, we're so averse to feelings of uncertainty.
Yeah.
That's well known in the research. In fact, there's a research study showing that people who were told that they would have a 50% chance of receiving an electric shock were way more stressed out than those who were told they were going to have a 100% chance of getting an electric shock.
Why is that?
So we would rather be certain in this case that a bad thing
Certain
is going to
of
happen.
doom.
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
Than have to deal with those feelings of ambiguity and uncertainty. And so clearly Niecy was, running up against this feeling of uncertainty. And it's so wonderful to see her relationship with Jessica just blossom. But one thing I learned from my experience losing the violin is that it's irresistible we're going to want to form these identities, right? So the question then is, how can we build more durable identities that are resistant and resilient in the face of change?
You make a great point, because so much of life shepherds us to have this identity. Who are we on our business card? What do we do? I used to tell people, and I still do, I don't enjoy when someone asks me instantly what I do.
I love
You know,
that.
I like, where are you from? Or
Yeah.
something. I don't know, but especially being in New York City, the first thing, well, what do you do?
Yes.
And I feel like you're already forming something about me, what I do, how much I make, all of these things that have nothing to do with my heart.
Absolutely. And I feel, no, that's beautiful. I could not agree more. And what I found is that it can be better to actually attach your identity not to any specific pursuit, like your job, being a musician, being a tennis player, whatever it is, and instead to the features of that pursuit that really light you up. So in the case of the violin, when I think back to what it was that I loved about playing music, it was the ability to forge emotional connections with people that I loved.
So it wasn't the violin, it's what it allowed you to do with others. Well,
Exactly.
coming up, something we can do that Dr. Maya says is simple and easy that will help comfort us when the world seems like it's on fire. More with Dr. Maya Shankar after the break.
You talked about the fact that when we're in our 20s, right, what we would call inaction regrets, so things that we didn't do, and action regrets, regretting things we did do, are roughly the same in number, right? But by the time we hit 50, inaction regrets are twice as likely to be felt than before.
Wow, that was a clip from season 5 of Dr. Maya Shankar's podcast, A Slight Change of Plans, which just dropped yesterday. Maya, you say that there's something we can all do to prepare for seasons of change. It's something we can do in our daily rituals.
Yes.
What can we do?
It can be so intimidating to go through life knowing that it can throw you a curveball at any moment. And one thing that I found can be grounding is to introduce a small, daily, reliable ritual into your life.
Okay.
That can be taking a walk in the morning. It can be calling a good friend when you wake up. For me, it's preparing a hot cup of Indian-style tea. I cut up the ginger, cardamom, boil milk. It's a whole thing. And
sounds delicious.
And I think the mechanism at play here is that when it does feel like life is out of our control and we're no longer in the driver's seat and we're feeling scared, having that ritual every day to rely on can signal to our subconscious brain that at least some things stay constant.
So it's like grounding, right?
Absolutely.
Like for me, it's making my bed, even with my husband in it. I'm like, he actually said to me the other day, like, are you giving me a hint? Because I will make up just my side. And he's like, are you hinting to something? But it's grounding for me. I get up very early. He's still asleep. But something about my side, I start my day like that.
The world would be a better place if all of our morning rituals is making our bed, Tamron, but...
I'm mummifying my husband, so I don't know how that is, but it's grounding for me to do that. Another thing that I do, and I've talked about this publicly, on Sundays, I pick out everything I'm going to wear for the week, down to my underwear, because it grounds me for the week. I know one thing has been done. And the rest of the things I can't control. But one thing is grounded me. Cognitively, what does that do for us?
Yeah, again, I think it can sometimes be very jarring to indulge in that daily ritual against the backdrop of trauma or loss or grieving. You know, over the last few years, my husband and I have we've endured multiple miscarriages with our surrogate, and it's been a really painful experience. And I remember making that cup of tea and thinking, I don't feel like this belongs in my day today, right? But I pushed myself. I forced myself to have that cup of tea, and I felt like it was therapeutic because, it was reminding me the days are still advancing. Some things are still constant. Some things are still within my control. And it just gave me some grasp of my current moment. That was really therapeutic.
It's something small, right? Because so often when we try to tackle our day and tackle, as they say, there's a reason and a season for everything.
Yeah.
When we try to tackle these things, we think big. It's like with dieting. They tell you not to try to lose 40 pounds. Try to do it incrementally because you don't want to depress yourself by the task.
Yes. No, that's such an excellent point. And I think so much of the scientific wisdom that we glean on A Slight Change of Plans is in the form of these tiny micro behaviors that we can introduce into everyday life, but that can have a transformative effect on how it is that we navigate change.
I love this advice. Thank you so much, Dr. Shankar.
Thank you
That's
so much
fantastic.
for having me, Tamron.
All right. We need to put your Indian tea recipe up on our site as well. We're going to get that recipe. Dr. Shankar, thank you. And you can listen to season 5 of A Slight Change of Plans everywhere you get your podcast.